What's up, Pirates? Wraith and Jim here with Awaken TCG, and today we have a nice little PowerPoint presentation for you guys. And as you guys can see what it says, why is Sakazuki broken? We're going to find out today. Basically, we're going over Sakazuki. We're going to go over some of his combos, basically some of his game plans in certain situations, and what actually makes this leader so broken, right? Because everyone knows we call this, tier 0 or tier 0.5. It kind of has its own tier, right? In the OPO5 meta, and then it's tier 1 decks like Plouffe, decks like Anel, decks like Katakuri, and things of that nature. And so we're going to go over kind of, give you guys a little bit of insight on what exactly is making this leader so much better and putting it above the rest. So let's get into it. All right, so for our first slide here, we have removal of any board state. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Rob Lucci as the first one. So you may place 3 cards from your trash at the bottom of the deck in any order, and then you KO up to one of your opponents, costs 2 or less, and then another costs 1 or less. So basically, this allows you to basically KO any decks that go wide. Green, purple, Dofi right now, Zoro, Law, these decks that love to go wide and pressure that way. This card right here is the biggest factor on why Sakazuki is so successful, because any of these decks instantly become offline just because of the board presence. Not only you gain from dropping a Rob Lucci, but also because it just KOs your opponent's board. And the card is not forgiving at all. You play this into a Law and you get 2 or 3 of these off, the Law is going to be at no hand size, and it's going to be at no board, and you're just going to have an easy time against it. What about Houndblaze?
So Houndblaze is kind of just a single target removal. It's a fantastic removal for cards that have either can't be KO'd effects or they have on KO effects that you really just don't want to deal with, like say a Magellan effect. This is your best card for that early in the game. So basically, if you have any cost reduction effect, Ice Age for bigger characters, Hina for mid-sized characters, or just a simple Great Eruption for your smaller characters, this card can basically remove any single target on the board while paying for itself and then some, right? Because if you attach Tudon, that's only plus 2k power. But this card just gives you plus 3k power just because. It did not need to do that on top of having a great trigger effect. Yeah, this card is definitely a reason why this deck is going to be really disgusting.
Yeah, it's one of those options for bottom decking, right? The Rob Lucci does KO, so sometimes if you're, let's say you're versing a purple Luffy and you have to get rid of a Magellan, maybe you don't want to KO it with Rob Lucci just because you will don -2 early on. But this Houndblaze is a great alternative as it's a bottom deck. And let me go ahead and talk about the Borsellino now. This 7-drop Borsellino is way too good. You definitely need to run a couple in your Sakazuki list. I think this card here, for the most part, is the biggest body, right? If unless you run Kaidos or not, some do, some don't. But it's one of your biggest bodies, so you get to establish that onto the board, and you get to bottom deck a 4 or less. But obviously 4 or less, you're thinking, oh, not that good. But this deck is really good at also cost minusing. So basically this gets to remove whatever cost you want, so you establish a great board on the or a great character on the board that's going to do a lot of work for you, and you get to bottom deck, sometimes a bigger unit. You usually want to do this for the bigger units. Obviously, it's still good if your opponent has a 4 or less and you just want to play this raw at 7 Dawn. That's still obviously a viable option. But just for this first portion here, yeah, the removal of any character that your opponent wants to draw is just instant. It's back to back, and I think this is the reason why, one of the reasons, and the first one we're talking about, why this deck honestly is just tier 0, right?
Uh, and Porcelino specifically is more for your big single target for decks that like to play large characters on curve, like say an NL like plays a Yamato. Okay, you just get rid of it. Rob Lucci's more for go wide strategies, but he can be more for even like Purple Luffy who plays 2/5 drops. Like with a couple cost reduction effects, that can just remove that as well. Like basically, the point we're trying to stress here is this deck can remove literally any board in the game with just these 3 cards. Because we'll look at some example lists. These are basically the only removal effects that they run.
And real quick, before we go to the next slide, I want to show you guys, as you guys can see right below here, is going to say how many of you guys are subscribed. It is 75% are not subscribed. So 75% of our viewers, which we think every single one of you, are not subscribed. So if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and stop this video right now. We're going to take a moment to pause, let you do that. Like this video and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our content. A lot of you guys are watching but not subscribing, so we'd really appreciate if you guys just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But hopefully I gave you guys enough time. So let's go ahead and get right into the next slide. All right, so next up we have card cycle and resource efficiency. So let's go ahead and go over Mansherry first. That's the first card here on this slide. So Mansherry, what she does is when you play here, you can activate her main effect for 1 Dawn. So 2 Dawn, 1 to play her, 1 to use her effect if you want to use it the same turn. You may rest this character and place 2 cards from your trash at the bottom of your deck in any order, and then add up to 1 character card with cost 3 to 5 from your trash to your hand. So any card you're cycling with your leader effect, as in let me trash this Kuzan, let me trash this Rebecca, and cycle a card, draw 1, right? That's your leader effect. You can grab things that you need. Let's say you need a blocker. You can grab a Rebecca. You can grab a Borsellino. Let's say you need a Rob Lucci. You can grab that as well. So anything you need, this card here, you should run a couple in your deck because it allows you to fish anything out of your trash. And so it makes it easy to be able to counter with something, and you know you have the Mansherry, I'm going to grab it next turn, right? So there's a lot of potential here for so many different options, whether you need to be more defensive, whether you need KO power. It just gives you so much versatility with this one card here. And not only that, it is a rested unit on your board that your opponent has to clear unless you get to keep it on board, right? If they leave it next turn, guess what you're doing? You're searching your trash again, grabbing another card out of trash, right? So very, very high priority for your opponent to kill. And it just makes this deck so hard to maneuver, right? Because you have to spend attacks on these 0 cost units, and you know, let's say you also play a Rebecca, which we'll go over, can bring another unit out as well. It's just so many of these bodies that you have to get rid of, or they become a nuisance.
Definitely well said there. Also, let's just go over these next 2. I'm going to talk about Kuzan and Great Eruption. So 2 cards that cycle and replace themselves on play because they draw 1 card. So Kuzan, obviously, as I'm sure all of you know by now, has the when attacking, give -4 cost to one of your opponent's characters. This card on board is a massive threat in this deck, obviously already. But even if you play him and they remove him and you don't get his effect off, it's not that big a deal because he replaced himself when you played the card, so you did not actually lose card advantage when you lost him there. Great Eruption doing the same thing, just a 1 draw 1 that also costs -2. So if you need a -2 cost, this is one that does it for very cheap, and also just replaces itself for a very good and usable card afterwards. So basically, you are never running low on hand advantage when you're playing these cards, and it's allowing you to do these multiple combos and multiple routes without going too low on cards, as you do need to play multiple cards out of hand to actually make these combos work. This is going to make you basically never run out of steam.
Yeah, 100%. 2 very good cards. Just, you know, it fits so perfectly with Sakazuki, right? You're cycling with your leader effect. Now you have a card like Great Eruption where not only do you get an effect, you also get to draw 1. So technically, you know, you're cycling the card out as well. And then, like you said perfectly, that Kuzan just draws you a card regardless if it stays on board or not. It already drew and replaced itself. And then last but not least here on this list, we have Rebecca. She's right below me here. You can see her. This Rebecca is probably one of the nastiest cards in this deck. So this Rebecca allows you to add up to 1 3 to 7 costs from your hand, a black character, mind you. And then you play 1 black character card with cost 3 or less from your hand. So if you pick up a let's say you pick up a brand new from trash, you can play that brand new that same turn. If you already have something else in your hand you want to play, you can pick up a 2K out of trash and then play that 3-drop already in your hand. So definitely a lot of options. There is a certain card, Hina, which we'll go over later. You can pick her up and play her out of trash with this Rebecca, and then you get big combos off of that. But this Rebecca here is just very sticky. Even if she gets cleared, now you have Mansherry. You can pick her back up. You can get another 2 bodies on the board. It's just rinse and repeat. And then, you know, your opponent obviously has to get through these blockers. If they don't have ways to remove these blockers, now you're getting free blocks off as well. already, not only did you gain a card, you played a card, and you're getting, blocker value. It's just so many things that this deck does well that makes it so good. All right, let's go ahead and go over the last slide here.
So right here, guys, is the main combo that you're kind of doing in this deck, and it is the main reason why Rebecca is one of the cards that is the main problem and the main staple of this deck, which made it go over the edge. So Rebecca obviously is going to grab a 3 to 7 from trash. So we have both of these targets here, which are the Hina and the Tashigi. So if you already have Hina in hand, you do not need to grab it from trash, obviously. You would grab the Tashigi and just get a free 2K for playing Rebecca. So just to draw a 2K while playing a blocker is already good. But then since you have the Hina in hand, whether you grabbed it from trash or already had it in hand, you get to play it out rested and do a cost -4. So you're playing a 4 cost blocker that draws you one and also -4 on play. Um, Basically, I mean, if this card was like printed like the card just said that, yeah, that would be absolutely broken and banned instantly. But this deck is doing that consistently as Sakazuki can keep cycling and find these combos for you. Um, and then cost -4 is already good, but then you can follow that up with a 1 cost Great Eruption or a 1 cost Ice Age
Mm-hmm.
to, yeah. And this is going to basically ensure you either KO one big target for sure, or you can kind of mix and match, right? You Hina on one target, and then you Ice Age or Great Eruption on the other target. And then you can play the Lucci to KO both, or if
Mm-hmm.
you just focus it on one, right? You do Hound Blaze, and then it's curtains from there.
Yeah, so like he said, perfectly explained this combo. It's a very brutal combo to have to deal with. And then you can do this multiple times in one turn. So it just gets very, very hard to deal with, right? It doesn't matter how many units you're playing, what you're playing, it's getting cleared. Your opponent's getting these blockers established. They're establishing these 3-5 units on board. And it just gets so, it makes you struggle, really. And I think in part, I think one of the biggest factors is this Rebecca. While it is a black character, it's Dress Rosa, and like most Dress Rosa characters with good effects like this, they're usually leader locked. So if your leader is Rebecca, do this. This is one of those cards where it's not leader locked. It is from the new set. It is not leader locked, and it allows you to be played in a deck like Sakazuki to just bring it over the edge. I think that's the biggest issue here. I feel like if we were to leader lock Rebecca and make this card only usable in Rebecca, then it would change the whole meta. Sakazuki would definitely go from a tier 0 to a tier 1, maybe even a tier 2 deck, depending on how well the deck still synergizes. But I think that's one of the biggest issues, and this is such a big and nasty combo to be playing multiple times in a deck like Sakazuki. All right, so here we have one of the deck lists for the most recent and the very last CS that happened for OPO5. It was a Sakazuki mirror, funny enough, and this was the winning deck list. So let me go over a couple of cards, and then I'll let you finish off here, Jim. So we have 2 Mansherries, 3 Tashigis, 4 brand news, 3 2K counter Tashigis, 3 Hinas, um, and then four Hinas of the black ones, and then 3 of the blue Hinas. So basically, this is a good base of what you want. I think Mansherries having too many can be a bad thing, as you don't always want those in your hand. Although it is good to see them sometimes. You run your 2K counters, which are also cost minus effects if you ever need them. You run your 4 searchers, your 3 Hinas that are definitely great combo starters, and then the 3 Hinas, those are more of a tech card. You definitely want to you can mix and match there what you want with those 3-drop Hinas. There are definitely a couple options. These ones help you going first on your turn 2. It allows you to play it and draw a card, but there are definitely some other options.
Another tech card that I don't think we mentioned earlier is the 5 cost Sabo. Another card that lets you cycle on play and build up that trash even more,
Mm-hmm.
as well as preventing your whole board that turn from being KO'd by effects. So, say you're playing against an opposing Sakazuki that was going to have a devastating Lucci play to get rid of your board next turn. Now that is completely out of the question. They have to go with one of their bottom deck effects, whether that be 7 cost Porcelino or the 2 cost Houndblaze.
Mm-hmm.
basically putting them on those cards and countering the mirror match, which you're going to be frequently seeing a lot next set. I
Yeah.
would not be surprised if more than 40% of the player base, I'd say, is playing Sakazuki in the first tournament next set, but we will have to see.
Yeah, 100. Next up, we have 4 Rebecca's, 4 Lucci's, 4 Borsalinos, and 4 Kuzans, or 3 Kuzans, sorry. Right, the 4 Rebecca's staples, 4 Lucci's staples. We just went over these amazing cards. 4 Borsalino, you like to have these blockers that can't be KO'd by effects. Just for the mirror, these are really good cards to play. Your Rob Lucci can't KO these, right? If you're playing the mirror, and then obviously 3 Kuzans, you want to play those on turns where there's nothing for you to KO, and maybe it's like you're going second and it's your second turn. You have no other play. If you don't have a Borsalino in hand, Kuzan is a good second option to run as well. And then obviously we just talked about the Borsalinos or the Sabos, and then the 7-drop Borsalinos. We went over those. And then we have some great events here: 2 Ice Age, 4 Great Eruptions, and 4 Helm Blaze. As you know, one of the most disgusting events in all of One Piece. Honestly, this card definitely did not need the plus 3,000. I think even if it was plus 2,000, it would be a little more fair. That one extra Dawn you get just for using this effect, and you get a bottom deck, is just, it's pretty gnarly. All right, Pirates, thank you guys so much for watching until the end. We really appreciate you guys watching this video. We're going to link down below a great article that gives you guys really in-depth look at this deck, how it works, and as well as matchup knowledge for you guys. It is a great article. We're going to go ahead and link it down below. It is a free article written by Ace of Spades, One Piece. If you guys know him, go ahead and follow his Twitter. But he wrote the article. We're going to link it down below. Make sure to like this video, comment down below what you think of Sakazuki, and subscribe to our channel, guys. Yes, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for 2,000 subs. We're shooting for 3,000 now, so hopefully you guys can do that for us. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.